Hello everyone and welcome to Newegg TV. My name is Paul. Today I'm going to be doing an unboxing and overview of this EVGA Hadron Mini ITX computer chassis, as well as the EVGA Hadron Hydro accessory kit. So I'm going to start off with the case and then I'll move on to that accessory kit. It is sold separately, by the way, if I didn't mention that. The Hadron Air is a case from EVGA that they came out with some time ago. This is a slight variation of that in that it has a taller upper section here in order to fit a radiator, and also this one is a little bit more designed towards actually fitting a water cooling full custom loop inside of it, which is pretty impressive considering this is a very, very small case. But apart from the case, which we'll take another closer look at in just a moment, you do get in a set of accessories. It includes a 500 watts 80 plus gold rated power supply, so there's your AC adapter cable for that. You have a Hadron sticker, which they have graciously not pre-applied for you. They give you that option. You have your Hadron Air guide right here, and again, bear in mind this is a guide that will support a couple different cases, but this will kind of walk you through the basics, since working with a small case like this can sometimes be a little bit more complex. You have a series of small screws and whatnot for attaching various components to the case. They have also graciously provided you with some serial ATA cables, like so, and these are going to be a little bit shorter than typical serial ATA cables to provide a little bit less cabling going on inside the case to ease the cable management. Speaking of cable management, we have a couple little small cable tie downs which you can pop into the case to hold your cables in place. You get an EVGA case badge that you can see right there. And then finally this little guy, which is actually an optical drive tray. This case does support a slot loading optical drive, slot loading thin optical drive I should say, of the kind you might find in notebooks. That is sold separately however, but if you do go for one, you can use this tray to install it. So here is a full look at this Mini ITX chassis, and I will pause briefly to do this. Ah, that's so satisfying. Okay, so as you can see, the case comes very well protected so that all the shiny bits stay shiny. On the front you have a very glossy finish with the EVGA logo there at the center, as well as a single power button, which you push to turn the power on, obviously. You might notice that this case actually has a bit of a slant towards the back, so it's kind of looking up at you. That's because it has a foot down here at the bottom. Just provides a little bit of extra air space underneath, since that's where a lot of your air flow is going to come from, or originate from, is beneath the case, and it just allows for that to happen. You have some I/O down here at the bottom, so there is a couple USB 3.0 ports, as well as a microphone and headphone jack. Up above that you have a slot loading optical drive tray with the eject button right there, of course, as well. And then moving around to the back, you will notice one of the main differences between this case and the Hadron Air, which is the extra height up here, specifically designed for radiator support. Now this back panel comes off, and I'll do that in just a moment to show you guys, but you have a couple extra grommeted routing holes right there as well. Here's a knockout for your I/O, and you'll note that you have two expansion slots because this case is designed for a gaming system, which means that even though your ITX board will only have a single PCI Express expansion slot down at the very bottom, you can still install a 2-slot graphics card, just has a little bit of overhang. There's a plastic cover right here that protects the mounting screws for your PCI expansion cards. And then at the very bottom you can see the 80 plus gold power supply. Again, that's 500 watt, comes of course with a switch, a fan there to keep it cooled down, and then the AC power plug right there as well. Next up we have the main event here, which is the windowed side panel. It looks a little bit cloudy right now, and that's because it still has some protective plastic on the inside, but I will go ahead and remove it. It's got 3 plastic thumb screws here on the back that holds it in place, and then it should slide off just like your typical side panel window. I'm gonna peel this off too while I've got you guys here with me, but there we go. This might take a second actually. Okay, so there you have it. Took just a little bit of effort, but got that plastic off there so you can see a nice clear plexi window. Not really smoked. It looks like it might be very, 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 very slightly tinted, but that's about it. So setting that aside for now, we can see the interior. So the interior sports a Mini ITX mount right there at the back, and if you guys are interested in a possible case to use, well, the EVGA Z87 Stinger Mini ITX motherboard has been very well reviewed so far on Newegg, and would be definitely a good candidate if you want to go for the entire EVGA set. And of course, drop an EVGA graphics card in there and you're good to go. You do have a bundle of cables right here, which I'm going to untie in just a moment. You can see that custom EVGA 80 plus gold 500 watt power supply, which is down there at the bottom. That's how they keep the case so small, as they've gone with a non-standard power supply, which extends right about to there. Apart from that, you have a couple drive cages up here. These will support a couple 3.5-inch drives, which is nice, but they also have mounting points here for 2.5-inch drives, so you can drop those in if you want to get some SSDs mounted. Also, up at the front, right up there, is where your optical drive would reside, and again, you would use that plastic black bracket that was included in the accessories to mount that. I've got the cables sorted for you guys to point out what's what. So first off, a 3-pin fan header right there. That's actually a splitter which leads up to power the 220mm fans at the top of the case, which are the 2 fans that come pre-installed. Apart from that, you have HD audio as well as your typical front panel for power LED as well as the power button. You do have USB 3.0 support on this case, so you have a full-size 20-pin USB 3.0 internal header. For your graphics card, you have dual 6 or 8-pin PCI Express PEG power connectors for graphics. You also have, of course, your main 20 plus 4-pin motherboard power connector, as well as your supplemental motherboard power connector, your CPU power right there, in the form of a 4 plus 4-pin plug. And then for add-ons or additional items that you might need to power, you've got a couple Molex plugs right there. And then finally, a couple more Molex plugs, so that gives you a total of 4 on 2 separate leads. And then finally, you got a couple serial ATA plugs right there, which will probably be powering your drives. At the top of the case here, you have this back panel, and 4 screws hold it on. So removing those and trying not to lose them, this will pop right off. Now this is going to give you a mount, or at least partial mount, for the radiator, and then you also have these rubber grommets here which you can pop off in order to set up your actual loop, because part of this loop is going to actually come out the back of the case and then go into the radiator through those back mounting points. This top grate here, you simply slide forward a little bit and then that should pop right off. There we go. So a quick look at that, front and back, and this is where you get the additional height needed for the radiator. So leaning the case over a little bit, as you can see, you got 220mm fans pre-installed, and of course those are set up to exhaust out the top of the case, and then this is what would normally be the top of the case if you were looking at a standard EVGA Hadron Air. You can also see this extra part from the front panel which protrudes a bit up at the top, and again that's just to provide the support for the radiator as well as for the front part of that grate. Lastly, let's take a look at the bottom of the case. So as you can see, there is that single foot at the front that kind of gives it a little bit of height. This would actually be your intake for the power supply down there at the bottom, and then it's got an additional rubber pad here at the back to help with some vibration and noise dampening. Next up, I'm going to move on to the Hadron Hydro accessory kit, and again this is sold separately, but if you are unsure of the proper types of materials or fittings or whatnot to use in the Hadron Hydro, then chances are you will be good to go with this particular kit right here. So let's see, that seems to be everything that is included in the box. It's all packed in very tightly here. So starting off with this, which is some tubing, which I believe is 3/8 inch inner diameter, but I'll confirm that in just a moment. Also note this spring here that's included. That's for anti-kinking, particularly at the couple points in the case where you're routing from the included pump/reservoir back through the back of the case, where you have kind of a very tight angle that you need to make, and that will definitely help out in that situation. Okay, it's an interesting way this is packed, although there's lots of cardboard. I think I have it upside down too, which probably isn't helping. All right, so here's your radiator. As you can see, it uses aluminum fins as well as the tubing heading back and forth through there. Down here on this end, you can see the fittings themselves, and this would simply slot into the top of the case, and these would be at the back, which would line up with the back plate, which I'm probably, no, I have right side up. There we go, and that is where the grommets pass-throughs would help move the liquid into the radiator itself. All right. Apart from that, we have fittings here. We have a block. We have more fittings. We have a funnel. That's always nice to have. Okay guys, so I gave up on the live unboxing and I just laid all this stuff out here because there are many, many accessories, and all of them are explained in detail in the EVGA Hadron Hydro Water Cooling Kit Guide, which is much more specific to the water cooling configuration than the Hadron Air guide that comes in the case box. So this is very nice to have. We'll walk you through all of the steps to go through for water cooling, and it's extremely helpful. Another cool thing that we have here, a couple cool things. One is this little guy, which is basically a built-in short for a 24-pin motherboard or 24-pin power supply connector. You can use this to short your power supply to test your pump and cycle the liquid through it for the first stages. Of course, never ever run your pump dry. Always make sure it has liquid. But this, you can actually set up your water cooling loop before you're running power through to your motherboard and other components. That's very important in case of a leak, because you always want to set that up first before you have stuff installed and plugged in. And nice of them to drop that in there for you. Here is a Molex adapter to a couple fan headers, and that is simply for these two little plugs that come off of the pump to provide you with adequate power for that with the Molex. They have included a funnel, which is very, very convenient for actually filling your loop and not spilling. You have a couple tools here included in the form of a custom little wrench that has a few different adapter sizes to help tighten down some of the screws and whatnot on the case. You also have a small Allen wrench, which is again for setting up and tightening down things, of course, not to put too fine a point on it. Here is your water block, and this actually has a very wide range of compatibility going all the way back to LGA 775 for Intel. Also includes modern Intel sockets such as LGA 1155, 1156, 1150, as well as socket 2011 if you can find a Mini ITX board that supports LGA 2011. I don't think those exist, but whatever, you still have support for it. You'll notice a very nice metal backplate here with some foam padding on it to protect the back of the motherboard. And then, of course, the block itself, which is using G1/4 compression fittings. And just to pop that off, you can see the barb underneath there. Actually, pretty much all of the fittings that are included here, G1/4 threading and compression fittings there as well. And this is currently set up for an Intel socket out of the box. However, you do have a couple brackets that are also included, like so, and you would simply remove these and add these on if you were going with an AMD platform. Speaking of AMD compatibility for AM2, AM3, AM3 Plus, and which pretty much includes just about every single viable AMD socket that's out right now. Moving right along, you do have some thermal paste that's included, and they've even given you a thermal paste spreader if you like to use a spreader when you install your thermal paste, or when you add your thermal paste. Finishing out the CPU block accessories, these are the long threaded screws that will pop through the back of that back plate to allow you to put the actual block down on top of it. And then you have some nice looking standoffs for various, again, different types of sockets. Different ones of these will attach to different sockets. And then, of course, these guys, which basically hold the actual block down onto the CPU itself. Here are the rest of your fittings that are included. Now you will notice here they have provided you with at least a couple 45-degree angled compression fittings, which is nice, and that will allow you to get around some of the tighter corners in the case. They also have some straight compression fittings there as well, and they have some 90-degree angled compression fittings as well. And then they have these longer adapters, and if you're wondering what exactly these are for, basically I mentioned at the back of the case you have a couple points where the water cooling loop will come out the back of the case and then go back in to attach up to the radiator, and that is what these are for. So specifically the right length to attach to the back, and since they're external, having them be metal is much preferable to having actual tubing sticking out the back there. So if you ever need to transport it around, transport your system around, then you should be in much better shape with that. Here's the included pump/reservoir. So the pump's at the bottom, reservoir's on top. That's ideal because you want to fill the reservoir first before you run the pump, and that will make sure that the pump has liquid coming into it. There's your inlet, there's your outlet. You have another inlet, possible inlet possibility on the side as well. And this is very convenient in that if you can follow me up this way, it will simply attach right to the back of the case, like so. And that is sort of how that fits in there. And then you'll notice you're going to have some very tight loops because you're going to have at least one of these going out the back of the case as well as another one going to the CPU. So it would come out the back of the case through these and then go up to the reservoir, which I placed up on top, which you can see right there. And just to show you kind of how that works, that's what these are for, like that. So Anyway, moving right along to a couple items that I might have already shown you, but here they are again anyway. But you've got your included antibacterial liquid for filling your loop right there. It is dyed green. And then you also have your tubing here. Again, that's a 3/8 inner diameter, 1/4 inch outer diameter, and I'm sorry, 1/2 inch outer diameter. And again, they do have that spring that's included there, which is for those tighter turns. Finally, these are just some little plastic safety items to assist with the installation of that block. And that is going to wrap it up for this video, guys. Once again, this has been the EVGA Hadron Hydro Mini ITX computer chassis, as well as the EVGA Hadron Hydro water cooling kit. I'm Paul with Newegg TV, and if you enjoyed this video, you can find more just like them on our Newegg TV YouTube channel. Don't forget to check out all the other channels in our Newegg TV network, and if you'd like to see the pricing on this particular item, as well as the water cooling kit, you can find that down in the video's description. Don't forget to hit the like button while you're down there, and leave me a comment on how you feel about this particular chassis and water cooling in general. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.